I also think I had a great resume and cover letter. I think as soon as they interview me, they'll see I'm the perfect candidate.
As of this video's release, Swenson Digital had extended a job offer to an applicant who happens to be a friend of the boss's son.
This is the Onion News Network. Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want. Our phone number for you is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. As always, you can bring up whatever is on your mind. That's the point here on Free Talk Live. Joining you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
Obviously, yesterday was a pretty big day with people actually storming the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. We discussed it in quite a bit of detail. Vincent from Questioning Authority came on the show. We sat with him for an hour and talked about what happened there. But since then, arrests have been made. Multiple people targeted after the fact. You know, they didn't arrest them during the event. But
well, it's hard to arrest people when they're surrounded by 500,000 of their closest friends.
Was it 500,000 people?
I don't know how many people were there, but it was a lot of people.
Okay, yeah, I'd heard 100,000, but, 500,000 isn't that far off from 100,000. So.
Yeah, I mean, there was certainly, it's off by a factor of 5, if that was the proper number. But, and it depends on how broadly you're defining it. I mean, the pictures that I've seen of the Capitol, not the insurrection itself, but
when you say the insurrection, you mean the people who went inside?
Yeah.
Because obviously only a fraction of them went inside.
Right.
Yeah.
But
hundreds did, right?
What?
Hundreds went inside, at least, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I would say
Thousands?
that hundreds went inside, and maybe it was. There were a lot of people in D.C. People are upset about this. And, I think, although I don't agree with their cause, I think it may be a positive development because watching Ron Paul cheated twice in 2008 and in 2012 was a big part of what changed me from a flag-waving Constitution thumper to an anarchist. Because, the bottom line is if they don't play by their own rules, then
and they don't.
And they don't. And if or just change the rules in order to make it impossible for people with your particular persuasion to succeed, then there's no point in playing the game with them anymore. And if the Constitution failed, and clearly it did, then there's I don't see how another Constitution is going to be better. I just think it would be more of the same. So that says to me that the solution is to make America states again, and to hopefully have some control over the state that I'm in. And that way people have options. People who are liberal can move to states that went in a liberal direction. People who are conservative can go to states that go in a conservative direction. And people who are libertarian can come to New Hampshire.
I love it. I mean, I think that's an idea. In fact, I saw Tom Woods, who's a pretty big libertarian guy on the internet. He's got his own podcast, and he mentioned secession in a recent tweet that he put out there. Saying that it's time to start talking about this again. And I couldn't agree more. I think that now is as good a time as ever. It was a good time 10, 15 years ago, but it's still a good time today, and maybe more so for people to talk about that. I don't know. I can't say for sure.
I don't remember either. I know he was still at PorcFest, so I assume that he stayed.
He was at PorcFest last year.
Yeah.
In 2020. He was their guest speaker. In fact, he's talking about coming back in 2021.
Nice. I hope he does. I like him.
And that actually brings up an interesting point.
And I have to clarify myself to him, because last time I saw him, I said, nobody loves your show. And I realized that I don't know if he knows that I changed my name. So I just want to make sure that I was clear, that he was clear that on what the joke was there.
Well, I don't know if he's listening, so you may have to tell him personally.
Yeah, well, could be. But, well, if you're out there and you happen to run into Tom Webbs, tell him that nobody really appreciates him.
So there was another event at the State House today in Concord. Apparently there's going to be a Candlelight Vigil happening right now as we speak. It's supposedly kicked off at 7 o'clock tonight Eastern, also at the New Hampshire State House. From what I understand, there were other State House goings-on in other states over the last day or two. And it was, I believe there were some folks from the Foundation for New Hampshire Independence. At the very least, I know Carla Garrick, who's the president of that organization, was expected to be out there. Now, I don't know if she had a chance to speak. Obviously, I wasn't able to attend. My day was full of making phone calls to radio stations that had to be
sadly,
made.
Nobody was expected to be there today, and he was not.
Meaning you're speaking of yourself in the third person.
I speak of me.
Yeah. That makes it even more confusing when you speak of yourself in the third person.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true, but it's so much fun.
And so there were, what looked like maybe 100 or 200 maybe maximum people out there. Seemed like a pretty good turnout for a cold wintry day here in New Hampshire. I have not watched any of those speeches, but there were some people who spoke, and I believe the purpose of the event was to protest the coronation of King Sununu, who was in a secret coronation this time instead of... Yeah. Is that what it sounded like when they put the crown on his head?
Quite possibly. I mean, crowns tend to be pointy, and they may have let some of the air out.
So originally, the plan had been that there was going to be a public coronation of the king.
Indeed.
And His Excellency determined that it was too dangerous after a group of Candlelight Vigilists showed up out in front of his house last Monday in order to have themselves a Candlelight Vigil. He sicked his men with guns on the candle-wielding foes.
Arsonists!
They weren't even lit candles, though. They weren't fire candles. They were electric candles, meaning just little LED lights.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his tail and fled. Sununu ran away.
Yeah, he wasn't even there to begin with. He wasn't home at all, apparently, but yet there were, more than a dozen, if not 24 state troopers who were sent to defend his empty casa. And we actually had the guy that got arrested on a couple nights ago here on Free Talk Live to tell the story. Savage Truth 603 from that YouTube channel told us all about that. So it was after that incident of the Candlelight Vigilists at his house that Sununu announced that what was going to be public outdoor coronation, which was supposed to be the first time it had ever been outdoors because, due to COVID, they were going to have it outdoors. But then he decided that it was just too risky for quote-unquote the public, which again is code for the government. And he decided he was going to have a secret coronation indoors with only the top goons from the Republican and Democrats to swear him in. And so apparently that's what happened today. So the protesters, originally they had planned, and I don't think it had to do with the Candlelight Vigil. I think what it had to do with was that they caught wind of what was going to actually happen, supposedly. What was planned to happen on his coronation was there were going to be men and women with guns who were going to stand in his way to prevent him from getting to whatever platform or wherever. That was
really?
That was what the plan was. But it wasn't being kept very hush-hush. It was being talked about publicly. So his agents found out that there was planning to be a essentially armed, whatever you want to call that, insurrection or refusal.
I would call that an insurrection. I would call that a very risky maneuver.
Yes. Well, that's how far these people were willing to take it. Because just the week prior, they had declared independence. I don't know if you heard about that, but
I did hear about it.
Yeah, there was a new Declaration of Independence that was read and signed on the State House steps, and many of those people were some of the people that were planning on coming and physically blocking Sununu from his coronation. So they caught wind of that, is what happened. It wasn't that there were people out at his house, because there have been people at his house for weeks. That's nothing new. But the people with guns blocking his coronation, he didn't want that to happen. So they moved it indoors to a secret in his office kind of thing that happened today.
Wow.
So that's what people were there protesting. If you want to weigh in, you can. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Look, I'm sorry, but you're in for a world of pain if you use Koinomi. The reason is their wallet doesn't support payments. The solution is simple. Let them hear your voice. Message Koinomi on Twitter, it takes 5 seconds, and tell them AnyPay sent you, because they're on the fence right now, and your voice will prove that people care about using Bitcoin for payments. Go tweet at Koinomi now. Or even better, leave a review in the App Store. They really pay attention there. Thanks.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Bitcoin.com is the best source for learning about cryptocurrency. Go there now, click on Get Started at the top of the page. Once you do that, you'll find a cornucopia of information, neatly organized for your needs. If you're a knowledgeable crypto user, check out news.bitcoin.com where you can get the latest headlines. Bitcoin.com is your source for buying cryptocurrency, getting a wallet app, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news, all on a slick and easy-to-use website. All put together by the best minds in the business to teach you about cryptocurrency. Bitcoin.com. Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
Talk Live, you dial toll-free if you want to join us here. You can do that. Actually, I said toll-free. I'm sorry, you can't do that now. You can just call regular toll. If there's a toll, if you pay long distance.
Yeah,
Most
if you're a
people don't.
normal person, you probably have a cell phone and you can still call toll free.
Probably. 603-283-6160, 603-283-6160. Also, Bitcoin hitting $40,000
It
today.
hit 40.
It did.
Wow.
It hit 40 and then it fell all the way to 34. There was a quick sell-off from a lot of people that had probably set 40,000 as their sell. Trigger. So there was a huge sell-off down to 34, and it immediately came back up to around 38, and then went back up over 39. So we're sitting pretty right now. Pretty strong.
And I missed that whole thing. That's exactly the kind of thing my trading algorithm is designed to capitalize on.
Yeah.
Bummer.
If you blinked, you missed that one.
I did blink.
So check out Bitcoin.com. That's where you can go to learn about cryptocurrency. And by the way, Bitcoin's celebrating its 12th birthday this week. So congratulations, Bitcoin. It's a great way to celebrate year number 12 by cracking through $40,000. You can go to Bitcoin.com, learn the basics, click Get Started there at the top of the page at Bitcoin.com. Watch the 2 or 3 minute introductory video. And you might want to watch more than one video, but if you just have five minutes, you can go and watch just that one. It'll give you the basics, give you a basic understanding and overview of cryptocurrency like Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash.
It's always nice when you when you see a new high, because basically that means that everybody who bought and held before that day made money.
If they sold at that moment, they made money. Yeah, that's true. But we continue with your phone calls. We can get back further into what happened with the protests and such. There was actually Donald Trump has been banned from Facebook. I mean, not banned, but told he's not allowed to post until he's no longer president.
Wow.
On Facebook. So we'll tell you more about that coming up.
Wow. I don't think they've ever banned anybody for being president before. That's a interesting thing to put you in Facebook jail for.
Yep. And also a 7th grader has committed suicide. We'll tell you what happened with that. But Jim Davidson is on the line here calling us from Kansas. Jim, you're on Free Talk Live.
Gee, Toto.
Hey, how's it going? Dorothy sends her best regards.
Who?
Dorothy of
Oh, I missed what you said. I missed what you said
the
there.
Wizard of Oz.
Gotcha. I didn't hear.
I was
didn't hear
trying
the
to
name.
play along. Sorry, I probably shouldn't be so topical.
No, I didn't hear the name. Go ahead. What were you calling about tonight?
Well, I've been working on a project. We are calling it Voluntarists and Agorists Living in Absolute Non-Aggression Today, because that makes a nice acronym, Valiant. And this week we were asked by some of my friends on the internet, and I have gobs of those. One of them is in Maine, and she wants us to put together a community there with her help. And so we have decided that it would be a good idea to also look at New Hampshire, because, adjacent to Maine, and I've heard over the years, that there are a few people in New Hampshire who are really dedicated to liberty. Really cool. Today, I got a call from a realtor who has a property with 70 acres, and you'll never guess the city and state. It's Keene, New Hampshire. I don't know if you ever heard of this
70
place.
acres.
Wow.
70 acres. Yeah. Do you know the gun club? It's right across the road from the gun club, is what I'm told.
I'm not aware of a gun club being in Keene. I suspect this is outside of Keene.
It's probably just outside Keene.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of the place in question. I think it's like Winchester, technically, but that's.
Yeah.
It's in Cheshire County, I'm told. It's 0 Map Ferry Brook.
Okay.
Or Ferry Brook Road, something like that. I'm calling up the PDF now to see.
So is this somebody who is the person who owns the 70 acres is looking to sell it and get out of here, or they're a liberty-minded person looking to create something there?
I'm a liberty-minded person looking to create something there, and they are, as far as I know, a landowner who is ready to unleash 70 acres. They're not asking very much for it. It's only $80,000.
Okay.
So
wow,
that's kind of exciting because a good
little
deal
over
on land.
$1,000 an acre.
It's just about $1,000 an acre. Yeah, I was planning on actually negotiating with them a bit and seeing if I couldn't persuade them. That
what's the
price
plan
should
here,
come
Jim?
down
What's
to 80.
what's the vision?
Oh, well, the vision is to create a community starting with a bed and breakfast and probably like RV pull-throughs and a campground, and then lease individual plots of land that are suited for home sites for up to 999 years. And the reason to do it as a lease rather than a subdivision is that you avoid having to register the subdivision with the county government. Or whatever, I guess in New Hampshire it's townships. I don't know. You guys have like your own Yankee way of doing things. But over here in
it's
Oklahoma,
not even like
where
the
we're
other
doing one,
Yankees.
we would have had to register all of the subdivision with the county, and then they would have approved our design for our roads because we're going to build our own roads. I know it's strange. Something that isn't the government.
But who's going to build the
roads? But there we are. Yeah, it is 0 Ferrybrook Road, Keene, New Hampshire 03431. I don't know. Somebody should grab this. It's actually $79,900 for the 70 acres, and it's right there on Zillow. I just talked to Clark Wolf today, who is the agent for this property. So
amazing.
I would totally love it if somebody wanted to buy that, and then I could work with them. But if none of the people have $80,000, we're actually putting together a project plan to scope these things out in a bunch of places. I've got a friend with 80 acres down in Belize. We've got a guy north of Toronto with 100 acres.
All right,
an outfit.
Jim.
In,
let me play the skeptic here because I've heard a lot of people talking about this very concept for a long time. There's always somebody talking about, oh, we ought to buy a big plot of land so people can have their tiny homes and they can have their RVs and we can have a libertarian, neighborhood or whatever. And it never turns into anything. So why is this one going to be different?
Well, one of the things that I do differently that actually Wendy McElroy just mentioned on LinkedIn, because I posted about this there, and I connected her on the LinkedIn discussion because she used to write for the Libertarian Enterprise about finding Galt's Gulch. She was actually converted to voluntarism or anarchy in 1970, reading Spencer McCallum's book, The Art of Liberty. And Spencer and I worked together on the Somali Freeport Project back in the late 90s. I don't know if you guys have heard, but Spencer passed away in December, age 96, down in Mexico. So that's kind of a sad loss for the freedom community. But the thing that Wendy mentioned is that, the thing that I do differently is I write business plans.
All right, stand by. We'll bring you back here. Hang on. We'll come back to you. Jim, hang on a sec. We're going to bring you back. We're going to bring you back. Just hang on. I want to hear more about this. Because it sounds like he's actually serious about this. I mean, like a business plan. I've never seen that happen. It's usually just talk. So that would be the next step, is actually put something down on a piece of paper. More coming up here in moments. You can share your thoughts with us. It's Free Talk Live.
Moose is the German Shepherd, now 11, and he's been an amazing dog. Moose is so active and so alert and hasn't had any kind of health problems at all. He has a beautiful coat, and at 11, he'll still run and chase the ball. He has been on Dynavite since he's a puppy.
Dynavite for life.
Because if they're getting all their vitamins, micronutrients, microbials from the beginning, then you're not going to run into the problems associated with the grass, pollen, dust, dirt, fleas, ticks, you name it, and the itching and shedding down the road.
DINOVITE.com. We tell anybody that has a dog, if there was something that you could do right from the beginning so that you don't have expensive veterinary bills, why would you not do it? Get the Dynavite.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynavite from DINOVITE.com.
I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Want to accept Bitcoin at your online store? There's a good chance you already have what you need: a WordPress using WooCommerce and a Bitcoin address. Now all you need to start taking Bitcoin payments on your website is the AnyPay app on your Android or iPhone. Just paste your Bitcoin address into AnyPay, then connect it to your website with our one-click plugin for WordPress. Now your website takes Bitcoin, start to finish, in 15 minutes or less with no complicated steps. Download AnyPay from the App Store today.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Some of our live shows are streamed in HD on Twitch. Please follow and share at twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live. You can, of course, bring up anything you want. 603-283-6160 is our number. That's 603-283-6160. It's Ian with you.
And nobody.
And we're talking about the idea of migrating people for liberty, which, of course, we're huge fans of. You and I, nobody, we moved here to New Hampshire over the last 15 years, 10, 15 years. I think you came in, what, 08, 09?
I came in early part of 09. I came on Valentine's Day of 09.
Oh, so your anniversary's coming up then.
It is.
That's cool.
It is.
I moved up here in 2006, and it's been great being around people that actually care about freedom. It makes a huge difference when you have a real community. And we were talking about secession earlier in the show here tonight. And then Jim Davidson called in, who got a mention on the show. A caller had called in about this Valiant project, and I was, of course, immediately skeptical. Given that they were planning a move out to the Ozarks, I think it was. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there's been a zillion of these move here projects, and it's always somebody wants everybody to move to where they already are. And that's, of course, what the guy was calling about, because he was already living there in this place. It's like, oh, every libertarian should come here. And it's like, no, there's already thousands of us that have moved to New Hampshire. Why reinvent the wheel?
But there's people who will never move to New Hampshire.
That's true.
Who might move to someplace else.
They might.
For various
they don't,
reasons.
But they might.
Generally,
they don't. There've been dozens of these things. Nobody. I mean, if you go to the Move Here, I don't like Facebook, but that's where Mark Edge, our co-host, created this page. He created a thing called the Move Here Project, where every time somebody has one of these ideas, whenever he hears about it, he puts an entry on the Move Here Project, and so you can go down this list of years of these Move Here projects, all of them sort of trying to do what the Free State Project has done here in New Hampshire, and every single one of them unsuccessful over the years. So, I mean, maybe somebody can get it right. And Jim, you sound like you're pretty serious about doing this in actually multiple cases. So this isn't just the Ozarks. You're saying Maine, you're saying New Hampshire, and you were just telling us a little bit more that you are somebody who writes business plans. So you're more than just someone who's, spitballing an idea on the phones here. So tell me more. Why should, people take this seriously?
Well, one of the things about my background that a lot of people don't know, they associate me with the Liberty Movement, or they associate me with the space movement, because I used to work for astronauts down in Houston, did a bunch of interesting projects on space. But I got my start in 1986 in real estate development, working for Ayrshire Real Estate, which was David Hannah Jr.'s company, and they were developing single-family residence subdivisions. Houston doesn't have zoning, so the real estate development industry there is very, very happy to do all kinds of new projects. And they build roads down there all the time. Private sector builds the roads, and then, in my opinion, rather stupidly, gives the roads to the county government as part of, making the homeowners association into a little bastion of anti-democracy. But I also worked for Altair Development in Friendswood, Texas, and then I worked on this whole Somali Freeport project with Michael Van Noten and Spencer McCallum. We actually traveled in Africa. We actually found places where we could locate a port, put a toll road in that would go to a landlocked country. And, we spent a lot of time making a very sincere effort planning out all of the equipment we would need. I was actually in Djibouti City in August of 2001, and for various reasons, I was advised to leave the country and go back to the United States. And I did, and I had a funny feeling about it. It didn't make any sense to me at the time. Now, looking back on it, I was in Texas when people started hitting planes into buildings, and two planes hit buildings in New York and 3 buildings fell down, that kind of thing. Which I was glad not to be in Africa at the time. Later, NATO General Tommy Franks said in October of 2001 that NATO policy should be to bomb all the port facilities in Somalia, which dramatically changed the investment posture of everybody who worked with us. They stopped wanting to invest. I know, it's so weird,
where bombs are dropping, money tends to not want to go.
Yeah, I'm sure that they became less fond of Americans when America or the American government started bombing them too.
So, okay, so you want to do one of these Valiant projects, and what does it stand for again? It was quite a mouthful.
Voluntarists and agorists living in absolute non-aggression today.
Okay.
Wow.
So the plan is buy a large piece of property, but more than one, not just New Hampshire, but other places, and then market that to freedom-loving people to come to?
Correct, and do some development. For instance, at the property in Oklahoma, we have at the front of the property a bed and breakfast. We're planning self-storage sheds, and then also a campground with RV pull-throughs so people can come and visit the property they're looking at, decide whether it's for them, get to know what it feels like living in that area by camping or staying in an RV or staying in a bed and breakfast. And that's the same sort of thing that we would be doing there in New Hampshire at the property that I got in touch with today. The property seems to be at a good price.
Now, I'm not trying to scare you away or anything like that, because obviously I would love to have this happen, but Keene isn't exactly the most freedom-friendly town in all of New Hampshire.
I heard that. I have heard that the people in the government of Keene don't actually like freedom.
No.
And they want us all to be slaves.
Is
that true?
It's one of the most heavily taxed cities in New Hampshire. Like if you were going to buy a piece of
Although
property.
you would not be subject to Keene taxation where you're talking about.
Why not? He's going to be in the Keene city limits.
Is it within the Keene city limits?
That's what I'm told, is that it's within the city limits. And
it's
Keene,
at the very end, the very
I was told the
northeast
code
end.
enforcement officer at Keene City Hall would be the one to talk to about whether or not we would ever be allowed to put RV pull-throughs on this piece of land.
Yeah, that's what you're going to come up against is the regulators are not likely going to be happy with this proposal, and you'll have to like bribe them or whatever if it's ever going to even happen legally, which is another question as to whether or not you care about that sort of thing. But if you do, then it will likely be a fight, I suspect.
Well, I'm hoping that we can get some support from the Cheshire County Shooting Sports Education Foundation because they're directly across the road. And they might like having people who are sympathetic to shooting sports.
They might. Yeah, that's a good
nearby.
point. That's a good
point. Yeah, especially in Cheshire County. I think it's a fantastic idea. As a matter of fact, if this comes to fruition, I think I might well be among your first residents there. Assuming you want to have me. I think it's a fantastic idea. I love it.
So what is the next step for you on this, Jim?
Well, I have to say, first of all, yes, we would love to have you as a resident. I mean, goodness, who wouldn't? You are Pope Nobody.
There are a few.
So
it just seems like an irresistible opportunity, and we could have you like be a spokesmodel. You could stand out on the street and say, "Come one, come all." See how it is to live in the valiant way.
Groovy.
Yeah, that's cool. And you are right next to a main thoroughfare, which is Route 9, and so it wouldn't surprise me if there was some fiber internet connectivity that would be in the area there, I suspect. So you're not too far away from civilization, so to speak, in that case. So what's the next step on this, Jim?
Well, the next step, as always, is to put the details of the business plan together. And that fellow who called in before, Mike Swadek, is our engineer. He's our chief engineer. And so now that I have from Chuck Wolf the extensive maps of the property showing all of the existing easements of record and et cetera, I'm going to ask Mike to look at the topographical. That's one of his favorite things to do is to look at topo maps.
Right on.
And
the music means we're about to be lost.
Keep us in the loop, Jim, on this as it develops. Definitely appreciate it. I hope this one works out. It's Free Talk Live.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with AgristHosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to AgristHosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's AgristHosting.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm. Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com.
Love what we do? Please help support our international satellite channels at patreon.lrn.fm. That's patreon.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. The number for you, 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian and Nobody here to talk to you about whatever happens to be on your mind. We, of course, were just talking about a favorite topic of ours, which is the idea of migrating as many freedom-friendly people, liberty-loving folks, libertarians, voluntarists, liberty-loving anarchists to the same geographic area. And we chose...
Are there non-liberty-loving anarchists?
Yes, there are.
Ooh.
They call themselves anarcho-communists. Many of them do, from what I understand.
Well, I don't know. I've found two groups amongst them, and one I have no problem with, and the other I have issues with. The ones that I have no problem with are the ones who kind of go by the old hippie ideal that it's like, well, we're going to start a place and have a little commune, and we're going to gather our friends to live there.
Great.
And we're all going to share with each other. And that's a wonderful thing.
Sure.
From my point of view. That's just forming an extended family.
Right.
Great. Then there are the people who want to force unwilling others to participate. And for those people, I have no use except fertilizer.
I'm with you on that one. Nobody. If you're somebody who wants to just be a voluntary communist, fine, by all means. I mean, there have been communes for decades. Most of them fail, but some of them have actually succeeded over the years. So it can be done.
And in general, most things fail, at least in the long term. But yet, they serve a purpose while they exist, and people live there, and they have a good time, and then they don't have a good time, and they stop living there. But they lived there for a while, and that was nice.
So the whole idea here is to get as many people to migrate as possible. If you want to join us, 603-283-6160 is the number to call into the show, and you can bring up anything, of course, that you want to talk about. Now, there is still stuff in the news worth talking about tonight, and Donald Trump, of course, has been the topic of discussion in, the last several years, but specifically in recent days regarding what happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Even though he didn't call for any kind of destruction, he didn't call for people to invade the Capitol building, that people did that anyway, and yet Donald Trump's getting all the blame for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite the opposite. He called for them to cut it out and go home, basically.
Yeah.
And social media, interestingly enough, took his statement to cut it out and go home down.
That's right. They took it offline, claiming that his statement was inciting violence.
Right, which is obviously what stop the violence and go home means.
Yeah. So there's an update on this social media situation where CNN is reporting that Facebook and Instagram have decided to ban Donald Trump's account from posting for at least the remainder of his term in office and perhaps indefinitely. This according to a blog post by...
Okay, how can it be perhaps indefinite? Because if it might be indefinite, then it's definitely indefinite until it becomes definite.
Mark Zuckerberg, the boss man over there at Facebook, actually made the blog post himself. According to the post, quote, "We believe the risks of allowing the president to continue and use our service during this period are simply too great. Therefore, we are extending the block we have placed on his Facebook and Instagram accounts indefinitely and for at least the next 2 weeks until the peaceful transition of power is complete."
Interesting. Wow. It's, I mean, the media and they are part of the media in the social media. The media's treatment of Trump, and I say this as somebody who does not have any love for the man. You know, he's but the media has been absolutely amazing during the Trump presidency. It's been 4 years of autistic screeching. And not just that, just the abandonment of any journalistic standards has been amazing. I was reading in some ostensible journalistic organ today that you know, he falsely claims that that the election was rigged. And as a man who believes that all elections have been rigged, at least since Kennedy, I think that's nonsense. But B, it's absolutely amazing that they can just flatly state as a fact that there was no fraud involved.
Not our government.
In
they
this
would never.
Election, when there's fraud involved in every single election ever.
Yeah.
You know, at least on some level. And as I say, I think I watched the cooperative effort between both parties in the media to cheat Ron Paul. And I will never trust an election again. After watching that.
Well, that wasn't even the election. That was the primary, and that was just people screwing over the Ron Paul primary people in the Republican meetings and such. They would turn off their microphones and change the rules at the last minute, and there was no fairness whatsoever to that process.
Yeah, and so basically. And that's generally been the strategy of the masterclass, if you will, is that to basically rig the primaries of both parties and then come down to a situation where they don't care which party wins. You know,
they're in control of both candidates.
Exactly. So, and it's very easy to rig the primaries because all you have to do is subvert the national committees of the parties. They are legally permitted, the courts have decided, to rig their own primaries. And since they have made themselves the only game in town by colluding to cheat every other party and disenfranchise every person who is neither Democratic nor Republican, They've got a lock on power, and they will have a lock on power until they are removed from power, probably by force. I can't imagine that it will happen in any other way.
There's no way the United States is ever going to be more than a two-party system, because it's going to fail before anything else happens. I mean, you can already see it starting, right? Like, the cracks are starting to show. What happened yesterday, 2 days ago, I don't think anyone would have predicted that people would be carousing through the Capitol building, breaking windows, and sitting in Pelosi's chair, and sitting in whichever chair it is at the front of the House, and taking away the speaker's podium and things like that. No one would have seen that coming.
Well, nobody did see it coming. Not specifically. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily mentioned the podium or Nancy Pelosi's chair, but I predicted that no matter who won this coming election, that there would be violence, and that whatever side won would claim it was a perfect election with not a single vote of fraud, and that whoever lost would claim that the election was rigged. So that much I saw coming. And
I'm talking about specifically taking over the Capitol.
Violence I expected. I was surprised somewhat that the protesters got inside.
That's what I'm talking about.
The Capitol.
It's not hard to predict violence. We knew violence was coming.
Yeah, but if you watch the video of that happen, they were allowed inside the Capitol, just like.
Are you sure? Because they were definitely smashing windows and breaking down doors.
They were, but there were also places where the police opened the gates and posed for selfies with them.
What do you think was going on with that?
I don't know, but it forms certainly a pattern. For example, there's no way that the autonomous zone that formed in Seattle could have been formed. I mean, those kids weren't armed.
They actually did arm up.
I mean, they were, a few of them were armed, but they were not an armed fighting force that could have driven out a professional police force, mostly composed of combat veterans with AR-15s.
But in D.C., there were way more people than in Seattle. I mean, in Seattle, there were nowhere near as many.
Right.
We're talking about
and they could have done a lot, and they probably could have gotten into the Capitol by force. But my belief is that, at least in some quarters, they were wanted in the Capitol, not by Donald Trump, but by Nancy Pelosi.
Really?
And her side.
603-283-6160. It's an interesting theory. If you want to weigh in with your thoughts, you're welcome to join us here. Hour number 2 is on the way. This is Free Talk Live. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
We condemn it. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. That was the comment from White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany as she made a brief statement to the media after yesterday's destruction at the Capitol.
It is unacceptable, and those that broke the law should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
And she added those who are working in this building are working to ensure an orderly transition of power, and she said now it is time for America to unite. She took no reporter questions. After calls for him to step down came from both sides of the aisle, the chief of Capitol Police says he will resign effective next week. The top Democrats in the House and Senate say lawmakers shouldn't wait until Inauguration Day for President Trump to leave office.
Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi say it's time for the vice president and cabinet to remove President Trump from office by using a provision of the 25th Amendment.
The Congress may be prepared to move forward with impeachment. That is the overwhelming sentiment of my caucus.
Democrats and a few Republicans are blaming President Trump for encouraging violent protests and a breach of the U.S. Capitol. South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham says the 25th Amendment is not appropriate.
I'm looking for a peaceful transfer of power. I'm looking for the next 14 days to reset.
President-elect Joe Biden is sworn into office on January 20th. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
House Judiciary Chair Jerry Nadler says President Trump should be impeached and removed from office immediately. He issued a statement reading apart the nation cannot afford a lengthy, drawn-out process, and he supports bringing articles of impeachment directly to the House floor. Boeing will pay $2.5 billion to settle a criminal charge of defrauding safety regulators in connection with the development of the 737 MAX jet. America is listening to Fox News.
If you're a business owner, you don't need us to tell you that running a business is tough. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Join the over 24,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/Fox. netsuite.com/Fox.
World leaders continue to voice shock at the violent protests in Washington.
Germany's leader, Angela Merkel, says the scenes in Washington made her angry and sad. Britain's Prime Minister called them a disgrace, while Ireland's Foreign Minister said the protests were, quote, a deliberate assault on democracy by a sitting president and his supporters. Rivals and adversaries are twisting the knife. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani says this is proof Western democracy is a failure, while China's government says it hopes Americans can enjoy peace and stability soon. In London, Simon Owen, Fox News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the rampage at the Capitol yesterday was a disgraceful act and it must be vigorously condemned. Billions of dollars available for a coronavirus rental assistance program.
The Treasury Department launches a $25 billion rental assistance program, saying the money will come from the $900 billion coronavirus relief package. Households or landlords that qualify can apply through programs set up by a state, territorial, tribal, or local government that receives the funding from the Treasury. The money will go directly to landlords and utility companies unless a household's landlord declines to take part in the program. The Treasury Department says it will cover 15 months of rental expenses for households. The CDC has banned evictions for most Americans since September, and that was extended by Congress and President Trump through the end of January. CJ Papa, Fox News.
The services sector, where most Americans work, grew for the 7th consecutive month.
It's the Onion Radio News. Raccoon leaders call for the loosening of garbage can lids. This is Doyle Redland reporting. In a 4 a.m. speech at the group's annual Washington, D.C. convention this morning, North American Raccoon Federation President Bristletail called upon homeowners to loosen the lids of their garbage cans, providing the ring-tailed mammals with greater access to discarded food scraps during nocturnal scavenging.
Every time you seal a standard 30-gallon garbage can, as many as 6 raccoons are forced to go without their necessary daily supply of congealed baked beans, rancid cottage cheese chunks, and moldy cantaloupe rinds.
The 26-pound varmint closed his speech with a stern warning that without raccoons, possums could take over the world. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're being attacked by news from all sides in tonight's News Blitz. Now we're homing in on Houston, Texas, where NASA announced today that the crew of the International Space Station has successfully completed their 13-year mission studying man's ability to constantly repair a large object in space. NASA officials hailed the remarkable feat of maintenance at a press conference this afternoon.
And throughout human history, man has gazed at the stars and dreamed of fixing something up there. People once thought the ultimate feat in human repair was a really big boat. Today, we've accomplished so much more.
This comes in the wake of NASA's previous success, finding out how many times an astronaut could hold something in his hand, then let it go, watch it float in front of his face for a bit, then catch it again. All right, dust yourself off. You have survived the News Blitz.
Tune in tomorrow morning to Today Now. We'll look back at Jim's week as a polygamist.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and phones are open for you at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
Free Talk Live brought to you by AnyPay. Just got a business here in Keene set up with AnyPay tonight, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
And you can do that. It's actually a little bar and grill inside a local casino that is now taking cryptocurrency here in Keene, thanks to AnyPay. And the setup is super simple. All you have to do is go to anypayinc.com and learn more about AnyPay. In fact, you don't even have to go to their website. You can just download the app. You can go to your Google or Apple App Store, search for AnyPay it used to be Take Crypto. AnyPay Cash Register. That's what they're calling it now. AnyPay Cash Register. And just download the app to your device on which you would like to accept payments and or your own personal phone, and you can just set it all up from right there. And it's so simple. You just plug in your cryptocurrency addresses. They now support Litecoin, by the way. So Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, Dash, and Litecoin. 5 different options to accept those different cryptos from your customers. If you don't like one of them, you don't have to use it. You can just accept the ones you want. And makes it super easy for your customers to pay. So download the AnyPay Cash Register app. As we continue here, your calls are welcome. 603-283-6162, your phone calls. We go to Bad Slave, calling us from New Hampshire. You're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Nobody. Hello? Bad Slave. Bad Slave going once.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, we have you. Go ahead.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Turn up the volume.
Okay, we hear you.
How you guys doing?
Good. What's on your mind tonight?
Great. Well, I mean, somebody told me, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was 1.5 million people, mostly Trump supporters, the vast majority of Trump supporters, in the 90+ percentile range, and so for there to be the tiny bit of damage that was done. And it appears that the people that were doing the damage were likely folks that were trying to pretend like they were MAGA, but actually were, in fact, Antifa or
now,
BLM or whatever.
This is an interesting conspiracy theory, but is there any actual evidence for it?
Well, they actually showed video of people, MAGA people, trying to grab this guy, and the people were pointing at him and saying, he's Antifa. He's Antifa. I don't know, but
Which guy were they grabbing?
They were grabbing the guy that was trying to break the glass.
Okay.
It was like the glass breaker at the in Minneapolis with the what was the auto zone.
Mm-hmm.
You watched all that.
Yeah, the AutoZone guy was
a cop.
Definitely made as a cop.
Yeah, I think this is the same kind of thing, that there were some, false flaggers that I don't think that most of the MAGA people would be at all interested in actually damaging.
Sure, but what you said there was that most of the MAGA people. You said most of the MAGA people would not be interested, so it's possible that some of them would be.
Well,
right?
maybe that number's higher than most. Maybe it's all. I don't know. The fact is that the MAGA people have almost, they're always peaceful. That's
a ridiculous statement. It's a ridiculous statement.
I would not say that the Proud Boys are always peaceful. I don't believe everything that's said about them in the media, but certainly
they believe in self-defense. I don't argue with that. That's not
okay. But look, the fact is, a bunch of these Proud Boys, they absolutely want to get into a fight. I mean, that's the reason why they show up at some of these things, and so do the Antifa.
Absolutely,
they all want to fight each other.
The chief Proud Boy recently robbed a church.
Really?
Yeah, he stole a Black Lives Matter flag from a church and burned it and got arrested for that.
Yeah, what do you have to say to that, Bad Slave?
What'd you say happened?
The guy who the
Proud Boy guy,
the top Proud Boy, just got arrested for stealing a flag from a church and burning it. And now I don't think they're as bad as the media says they are necessarily, but I wouldn't say they're entirely peaceful either.
What were the politics of the flag?
It doesn't matter.
Black Lives Matter, but nonetheless, it's not a peaceful act to steal property.
But the fact is that there's one thing of burning a building down, and at the other end of that is burning a flag.
But what are the politics of the building?
The guy could have easily replaced the flag and paid some penalty and walked away from it, and nobody would be harmed. But that's not the options with regards to how they react.
Okay. Well, now you're just making an excuse for stealing a flag.
I'm not making any excuses. I'm just saying that the actual cost of the measure.
Okay, but your statement earlier was false. Okay. Your statement earlier was false, claiming that people who are in favor of Donald Trump are somehow totally peaceful, and that there's nobody among them who would do anything destructive or violent. And that's just patently ridiculous. Thank you for the call tonight. 603-283-6160 is the number here. In any group of thousands of people, you're going to have a range of opinions. You're going to have some people who think it's entirely fine to just beat up somebody. You're going to have some people who say, hey, don't hurt somebody. This is, a peaceful protest. You're going to have some people who think it's okay to destroy property, and others who say, no, we should only be destroying government property, and others who say, no, don't destroy any property. You're going to find a wide range of beliefs in a group of 100,000 human beings.
Yeah, even in my group of 200 at the, or however many it was at the 420 rally, there were times when I was very much concerned that things were going to get out of control, and there were times when I intentionally blew the crowd off because I was concerned about it and was like, okay, well, let's all go home now. But the thing is, you can't plan a protest.
No.
Because you might say, okay, let's all go home now, and they might say, no, we don't think so.
Yeah, and that is an issue that people have been coming up against for forever when it comes to protests. Whenever you have a thing and it's in public, you don't get to control who shows up. Any instigator, anyone who is actually against your beliefs can show up, pretend to be you. And that's what he was suggesting, is that there was, so-called Antifa amongst the Trumpers. And that could be true. Yeah. But anybody could show up, and it could be somebody who technically agrees with you, but doesn't agree with your methods and wants to do something to agitate or wants to do something to destroy a thing or a person or whatever.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, even if there were some agents provocateur, which I suspect there were, I mean, that's the sort of thing the government loves to do.
And have done plenty of times.
They've done it many times to many groups, to every group that disagrees with them. But, the bottom line is, when there are agents provocateur, there are generally also sincere adherents who go along with them, caught up in the moment, or not knowing that what the optics are going to be look like for the other side. What I hope will come out of this, if nothing else, is that the MAGA people will take another look at Black Lives Matter and ask themselves, what do they really know about the people who were on the ground? Because I know there are some bad people involved in running the Black Lives Matter website. Certainly, there are some trained Marxists, which, is, well, not something I'd brag about. Yeah. But the people on the ground are just people who don't want to be shot and don't want to have their families shot, and they're scared, and they're mad, and that's why they're out there.
603-283-6160. If you want to join the show, you can bring up what you want. Your comments welcome. This is Free Talk Live.
Freedom! Freedom is the call of the untamed Scotsman and all others that want to feel the wind under their kilts.
At Free Talk Live, we love the breezy, swinging feeling that only a kilt from Sport Kilt can give.
We teamed up with Sport Kilt to let you experience their form of freedom at a discount. Go to kilts.freetalklive.com and see a picture of Richie and me in our kilts.
And then head over to sportkilt.com. Get some stylish freedom for yourself and use code FTL for a 10% discount. Sportkilt.com.
Having taken her father's throne, Sarah Calhoun has fallen out with one of her best allies, and her brother Nathaniel heads into Imperial Philadelphia with a reckless plan. Her uncle Thomas, armed with new powers and new allies, aims to remove Sarah from her throne and from the world of the living. To survive and to gain the strength she needs to fight an impossible war, Sarah must unite the Mound Builder Kings to enact an ancient rite that will propel her beyond mortality. Servant Daughter by T.J. Butler is the newest entry in the Dragon Award-winning Witchy War series from Baen Books at BaenBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to DivvyProject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from DivvyProject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. DivvyProject.org. DIVI Project.org.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising, direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Now you can follow LRN.FM on the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up anything you want. 603-283-6160 is our number. That's 603-283-6160. And you can join us online anytime you want over at freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
So we just found out there during the break that Donald Trump is back on Twitter to concede the election.
Yes, very interesting. Now, personally, I've got a theory. I've always got a theory.
Yeah, what's that?
My theory is that they said that they would only let him tweet if he tweeted his concession. And he held out as long as he could, but his addiction wore out. He won out. He had to tweet. He had to tweet something.
Yeah.
And if that was the only thing he could tweet, he would tweet it.
Yeah.
It's like the first guy who licked a toad to get high. It's like, okay, I'm going to lick this toad. I've licked everything else in the house.
He really does love to tweet. So that's it. I think you're right. I think that's a legitimate theory. I consider it valid. That's what happened. So I'm not going to play it on the air. I mean, it's a nearly 3-minute long speech about how, he's against all of the destruction and people are going to be prosecuted in law and order and he'll be involved in a peaceful transition of power. So if anybody was expecting Donald Trump to do anything except walk away, that's all he's going to do.
And, it's kind of funny because the law is in a state of disorder, and it has been for a long time.
Yeah. It's not getting better either.
It's not getting better, and it won't get better. And hopefully, the people who thought that Trump was going to be their savior, just as I thought that Ron Paul was going to be our savior, will realize that action through the political system is doomed. Because not only is the political system rigged, the media is rigged, everything in the country is rigged, the major corporations are rigged, everything.
Don't you think Donald Trump is part of that rigged process? That he was a selectee?
I don't know. He may have been a Judas Goat.
Mm-hmm.
Designed basically to discredit the right and usher in communism. Or he may have done that accidentally.
Yeah, could be. I'll tell you this: at the very end of his speech, he does sort of he tries to tease people that this is just the beginning, that this isn't the end of Donald Trump. The suggestion being that he'll be back. That he's going to come back for another round. So stick with the country. Stick with America. Don't leave. Don't secede. I mean, he didn't say that overtly, but he did suggest at the very end that this was just the beginning, that it's not over yet.
And the thing is, America will remain a nightmare until such time as at least some states leave because the left does not want to be ruled by the right, and the right does not want to be ruled by the left, and they've rigged the game so that the center hasn't a chance.
Right.
So what's left but to end the
goodbye.
game?
Say,
or
we're done.
At least let some states go.
Right. Just fold, put the cards down, walk away from the table.
Yeah.
And call it a day.
And this isn't thermodynamics, which... the 3 rules of thermodynamics can pretty much be broken down to you can't win, you can't break even, and you can't stop playing the game. Well, we can stop playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah. And as they proved yesterday in D.C., all you need is numbers. All you need is enough people to disobey, to non-cooperate, to fail to go along, to get along anymore. And it changes everything. It changes everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely the case. If there's 200 Americans for every cop and soldier.
Is it only 200? Oh, and soldier. Okay, if you factor in soldiers.
So that's including the army. And that's not including the fact that if there were a real insurrection, an insurrection with leadership, an insurrection with an agenda, that some people in the military would prefer it to the status quo, and some cops would prefer it to the status quo.
Yes. Would they actually switch is another question. Would they switch sides or
I think they
prefer?
would if they thought there was a chance of losing. The question is, if it ever comes down to the point where more Americans than cops are willing to lay down their lives, then
it's over for them.
It's over for them. Yeah. And at that point, they would be well advised to go with the winning side.
Indeed, and we will, of course, keep our eyes on these developments as they continue, because I think you're right, Nobody. This is going to get pretty ugly, where now you've got the Biden administration coming in, and apparently the Democrats won in Georgia. I think it was yesterday or the day before. There was a special election that went on, very close election, but the Democrats won, which I believe puts them in charge of Congress, doesn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it does.
I'm so large with the not caring very much about Democrat versus Republican, because it just comes down to two groups of people that want to impose things on me that I don't want any part of.
Yeah, I don't want either of them to rule my life. Not interested in the least. But now is going to be a good time to start reaching out to the right about things like secession. Now is a time where they're going to be ripe for that particular message, which is why I was glad to hear that some of the secessionists were out at the protest here in New Hampshire earlier this morning at the state capitol. So it is time now, and unfortunately, with Trump doing what he did at the end of that speech, saying that, this is just the beginning, he's trying to rope people to stay in. He's trying to say, hey, he's got the bait that he's swinging out there, saying, hey, look.
And he's a masturbator.
Yeah, you guys have a chance. You guys have a chance to take this back. And that's what I want to tell you is just give up on taking it back. Forget about Washington, D.C., and start talking about your local state and getting out.
Yeah, because any victory at the national level will be temporary for the Democrats or the Republicans.
Yep.
So every Republican needs to remember every election that even if they win, there's going to be another Obama. And every Democrat needs to remember that even if they win, there's going to be another Trump.
Well, and the other thing is, not only is the victory temporary, but the bureaucracy imposed during that time is permanent. So when these Democrats pass new programs and the Republicans pass new programs, those programs don't get shut down. They don't get smaller over time. They just change hands and
the closest you come to immortality is a government program. And the man who said that, Ronald Reagan, it's still illegal to open carry in California, and he signed that law to stop the Black Panthers.
We will continue. Your thoughts are welcome. Our number is 603-283-6160. Where do you go from here? If you want to weigh in, you can. 603-283-6160 here on Free Talk Live.
mounds and mounds of fur. Our hairballs have hairballs.
Marquette Mama, she's 10 years old. She has dandruff and an oily coat.
I have 2 cats, Zippy and Daisy. Daisy sheds like crazy.
If you love your pets as much as I do, you'll want to do what's best for them to live long, healthy, happy lives.
DINOVITE.com. I just tried this wonderful Catalicious Dynavite for cats, and my cat has been on it for 2 weeks. She is not scratching anymore. She's not chewing anymore. It is just the best.
I was thrilled when I heard Dynavite for cats was coming out because I'd seen the changes in my dog. To introduce my cat to Dynavite, I took the advice from Dynavite and put their food on top of just a scoop in the bowl, just to get them used to it, because I know if I even switch one little thing, they put their nose up to it. There was not one problem.
Dynavite for life.
You won't believe how happy your cat will be.
DINOVITE.com.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at lrn.fm.
This is Free Talk Live, inviting you, if you want to join us here, you can do that. Our number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Donald Trump banned indefinitely from the Facebook and Instagram platforms, although Twitter has let him back on so he could post a video of him conceding the election. That is his latest post there. With you in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
And you've heard us talking about Divi here on Free Talk Live. Perhaps you want to try setting up one of their easy-to-deploy masternodes. It just doesn't get any easier than what I've seen over at Divi, and I've gone through the process. It is super simple. You can even do it on Windows, which makes it really amazing that that's even a possibility. But Divi made that possible. You can go to diviproject.org. Now, what is a masternode? It's where you're running a special node on the network to provide services to the Divi network, and you get compensated for those services. Again, it's diviproject.org, D-I-V-I project.org, and you can connect with their Telegram channel. And if you want, buy Divi directly from the Divi team there, or of course you can go to several exchanges. But if you're going to buy a lot of Divi, then it's definitely the best to do it what they call over the counter. That way you don't push up the price on the exchanges. diviproject.org. As we go back to your calls and thoughts, we got Tom. He's in Florida. Tom, you're on Free Talk Live with Ian and Nobody.
Oh, what's up, guys? I'm glad I was able to get on with you guys, you and Nobody in particular, especially on this topic of the Capitol and it being stormed yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I know everybody in a lot of places want to spin it however they want to see fit and spin it. I personally believe that if the cops let him in or not let him in, during the BLM and Antifa protest, which I'm glad no cops killed any BLM or Antifa, but 4 people were killed yesterday. And I'm not saying that I'm not knocking Antifa or BLM, but people are saying, oh, well, the government didn't do enough, and then Trump called the National Guard and everything, and he didn't do that with Antifa and all them. He was threatening to, but then when it came and they saying, oh, it's all Trump's fault and all this and that. No, I think it's, just people upset with the system, and as nobody's been talking about the past couple of weeks, I mean, he's like, he can't, I'm not trying to quote him, but something in the words of, can't believe people haven't stormed the Capitol yet. And now they finally did, but thank God they did have a little.
Did you actually say that, Nobody, in recent weeks?
Really BLM or Antifa, they would have burnt the Capitol down. They would have set fire to it while they were inside.
I don't know if that's.
What do you guys think?
I don't know if that's the case, but certainly enough people have been murdered by the government that I would not be upset if somebody burned down the Capitol personally.
Me neither.
I mean, it's
a shame they didn't.
The government murders people on a regular basis. The government imprisons people for weed, for things that are trivial lifestyle decisions that people make for themselves and have every right to make for themselves. So,
I think that's one area you and I are going to agree on, Nobody, after, disagreeing with regards to violence against people. I don't care what happens to the government buildings.
Oh, no.
I don't care.
I don't either.
It would actually warm my heart to see that thing on fire. Because you know what those scumbags did? They went right back in there after the National Guard secured the area. They got rid of all the, the protesters or whatever. There was, of course, a curfew in D.C. last night, and the National Guard came in. They locked down the building, and those scumbag politicians were right back in there doing the same old crap they were doing just 3 hours before.
Yeah. Probably a lot of nice corporate handouts and.
In this case, it was certifying the election, which Trump has now conceded. Go ahead, Tom.
Agreed with you guys. Yeah, you guys are right on it. Yeah, they went right back to business as usual. I just thought that showed the protesters were just trying to get a point across. Now, next time they might not be so nice. So maybe these guys didn't learn their lessons this time. But like Nobody would say, keep testing the people, keep pushing people in the chest. It doesn't matter who you are, black, white, or brown. Americans will come together. And at that point in time, these politicians really got something to worry about then. And thank you guys for Free Talk Live, and I love you. And let's keep freedom going, baby.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, bro.
Appreciate the call tonight, Tom. Our phone number is 603-283-6160. So again, Trump has been banned from Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO over there, actually took to a blog post saying that the risks are too great to allow President Trump to continue using our service. They say, therefore, we've extended the block we placed on his Facebook and Instagram accounts indefinitely and for at least the next 2 weeks until the peaceful transition of power is complete. They say here on Twitter, or rather on CNN, that it marks a major escalation by Facebook as it and other platforms have come under intense pressure from advocacy groups and prominent figures to ban Trump following his inflammatory rhetoric encouraging insurrection, which he never did. I don't know why they keep saying he was encouraging insurrection. He told people to respect the cops and to go home.
Yeah, I mean they've been lying about Trump for 4 years. Yeah. And you know, it almost gives me a little bit of sympathy for the guy until I remember that he he orders the bombing of villages with children in them. You know, just like the guy before him and the guy before him. But yeah, they lie through their teeth about Trump on a regular basis, and they've abandoned all pretense of objectivity.
Yeah, all he ever did, from what I've seen in the last couple of days, was encourage people to come to D.C. He encouraged people to come and protest or whatever, but he didn't encourage them to destroy anything or raid the Capitol building. Mm-hmm. And when it happened, he called in the National Guard. I mean, and I'm not saying that that's what he should have done necessarily. Like, I'm with you on this. I would, would have been nice to see people go a little bit further than they actually did, but they didn't. And Trump wasn't calling for them to do any of those things, but it doesn't matter anyway. And they've been waiting for their chance to censor Trump. I mean, this is just them jumping the gun.
Oh yeah, I mean they've been putting they've been putting statements by their so-called fact checkers on his statements for a long time, saying. They on one side he'll say something about the election was rigged, and they'll say, "Oh, that's disputed." But you know what? When somebody on the other side says, "Oh no, the election wasn't rigged," they don't say that's disputed. Mm-hmm. Well, both sides are disputing. And I, as an objective observer, can see that both sides dispute the other's opinion. So why is only one side being marked as disputed? It takes two sides to dispute.
Now, what Trump should have done, and he should have done it a long time ago, because it's a little late in the game now.
What he should have done is ended all the wars, ended the war on drugs, ended taxation, closed the doors on the government, gone home. He's
not a libertarian, so
no, he's not.
Those were never even an option. But what I was going to say is, in regards to social media, what he should have done. And a while ago, because this was obvious, this was what these, Twitter and Facebook have been waiting for. They've been wanting to do this to him for a long time, but they just didn't do it because, well, he was the president. They would do it to anyone else in a heartbeat. But what he should have done was should have got on an alternative platform like Mastodon and created an account on or put his own Mastodon instance up. Mm-hmm. And created an account on a thing that could not be taken down by corporate tech overlords. And then he would have been completely, he could have then promoted it on Twitter, because now he may not ever get access to the account again. He could have promoted it on Twitter with his, I don't know how many millions of followers, and said, hey, come on over here and follow me on this other platform that I have control over. And then they never could have taken his voice away from him there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want to see Dave Ridley do, and
Dave's doing that.
I'm downloading all his videos right now from YouTube. So
that's very cool.
So they'll be saved.
All right, so 603-283-6160 if you want to weigh in on social media ruling over people's lives and opinions. You can bring up whatever you want as well. It is Free Talk Live.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
You can't win if you don't enter, and you actually can improve your chances of winning a prize drawing if you wrinkle up your entry blank. I'm Holland Cook from survivalspeech.com, and I speak from experience. Why this works: if they'll be spinning the drum before drawing, your entry blank will move around more than, and not adhere to, other perfectly flat entry blanks. And if they don't spin the drum and merely reach into a box full of other perfectly flat entry blanks, many of which are sticking together, yours will feel different to the person reaching in. When you win, act surprised. And if you're looking for work, this is a metaphor. For more tips on sticking out in a world where just too much blends into the blah, 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 hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live, open phones as always at 603-283-6160. In the studio with you, it's Ian.
And nobody.
That's 603-283-6160. I want to say thank you to C and J Bartholomew, who are Free Talk Live Gold amplifiers. Together, they support what we do here on Free Talk Live. They help us advertise, market, and promote. That is what AMP stands for. If you want to help us do that, you can do it for as little as $5 a month over at amp.freetalklive.com. We really appreciate the assistance. It helps us get Free Talk Live on more radio stations around the country and bring new internet listeners on board and expose new people to the ideas of freedom, because sadly, they're just not heard anywhere else on the radio in any kind of consistent measure like they are here. So if you like what we do, head on over to amp.freetalklive.com. You get some cool perks and some benefits as well. We'll talk coming up here about what is apparently might be happening to some of these protesters in D.C., possible 10-year prison sentences likely dished out by President Trump's own prosecutor. The Attorney General will tell you about that on the way because, these people who supported Trump now may be prosecuted by Trump's own men.
I wonder if they'll still back the blue after 10 years in prison.
Great question. Let's go to Mitchell in Tennessee. You're on Free Talk Live. Hello, Mitchell.
Hey, Ian, what's going on?
Hey, what's on your mind tonight?
You too, nobody. Listen, I just wanted to clear something up real quick. Ian, you would use force to defend yourself if you were being violated, yes or no?
Yeah, and also other innocent people, you can use force to defend them as well.
So what if the government, what are the individuals that make up the collective of the government? What if those individuals are violating you? Will you use force?
Well, now that's an interesting question. It gets down to the question of, where are we at with society? What do people think? What's the situation in that case? What do people think about those government agents? Because if government people lose their legitimacy, then it becomes more, legitimate.
Let me jump in, because that's really what I want to talk about. I'm reading something here. It says a legitimate government is the one which is elected by the people of the country during elections which are held in a free and fair manner. Now, as far as it goes, and I don't know, but half the country says that it was not fair. So
I don't know if that's half the country. There's probably
the question is the government legitimate?
Yeah, there's probably.
And therefore, if the government is legitimate, or let's say if the government is not legitimate, I'll read this. Political authority grants members of government the right to rule over citizens using coercion if necessary, while imposing an obligation for the citizens to obey government orders. Now, if the government is not legitimate, it means, by extension, there is no legitimate political authority.
Well, I don't think any
If
government's
they do not have legitimate political authority, then they're criminals, because they're impersonating people of great power and they're violating people.
Well, Mitchell, I don't think any government is legitimate. I think that it's always illegitimate.
I'm a voluntarist, Ian.
Yeah,
I'm
use violence.
I'm just trying to run a line here. Do we agree? Well, we agree. So what I'm saying is that the government's illegitimate, therefore these people are criminals. The politicians are criminals. Is that correct?
Yeah, they've always been criminals. There was never a time at which they weren't criminals.
All right, so before I run out of time, I put together 7 bullet points to better prove and establish that the system and the government is not legitimate. Number one, violation of social contract. I don't subscribe to that either.
No.
But it supposedly was bounded on that ideology. Number two, failure to secure individuals and individuals' rights, inalienable rights. Number three, no unanimous consent of government. Number four, racking up an odious debt, also known as the illegitimate debt. Number five, inaction regarding prior violations. Federal Reserve Act, these things just keep on festering. Let's see, number six, an invalid electoral process. Number seven, the individuals that represent the government basically are being bribed or compromised. A lot of these people are being bribed. And number eight, the individuals that represent the government ruling class are impersonating individuals with legitimate authority when government is not legitimate and no such authority exists.
Yeah, there's no such thing as legitimate authority. I mean, it's all just fantasy.
It is.
They can claim anything they want. It's pure fantasy.
He's talking about political theory, though. I mean, this is
but it's still pure fantasy.
But a lot of people believe
political
fantasy
science professors would put them.
Yeah, they do believe in that fantasy, and that's the problem. That's why government exists, because people believe in it.
With the believing people, because nobody knows what to do. Would this be a solution and actually a starting point to get to the reality that perhaps we subscribe to, a voluntary stateless society, or at least a hybrid, like a no-state zone? Like, by the way, go study Slab City. That's very interesting. But the point is there's a thing called a citizen's arrest that's within the confines of, quote, the law. But if these people are criminal, let's put it this way. What if you had 1 million people protesting yesterday, which you probably had that number? If you divide that 1 million people by 10, squads of 10, you have 100,000 groups of 10. Now, what if 100,000 groups of 10 go do citizen's arrest?
And then what?
And then you take them to, I don't know, Guantanamo Bay. There's some logistics here, but you can do it in phases, and then you can do like an arbitrative, or you can do a new Nuremberg trial, and you can try these people. They're criminals.
You know what? I wish you the best. I mean, I'm not interested in participating, but
you could certainly do that. What you would want to do would be to institute a common law grand jury.
That's
and
what the citizen's arrest is about. It's sort of based on some of that, I think.
Well, if you've got 100,000 people, or 1 million for that matter, you could easily just move to the same place together and ignore the government.
Yeah, I mean,
that's true.
Why don't you take your 1 million people, come up here to New Hampshire?
You can face off against the technological capability and firepower. It's silly, but the way the police do we the people is they make sure there's 5 or 6 of them and there's 1 or 2 of us.
That's right. That's why I've been saying it's about the numbers.
Exactly.
It's
so it makes
always
more
what it's
sense.
about.
If people want to talk about going against the government, why don't they go in groups of 10, and that way, or whatever, you have a whole bunch of people going, and basically it's not violent, it's not bloody. It's basically saying, come with us. And it's
well, of course it's violent because you're saying come with us or else.
It's violent as soon as as soon as you say come with us, and they say I'm not going with you.
Well,
just like it's violent when they say come with us. If 10 people confronted
you and say come with us, what are you going to do?
Well,
you going to fight them?
I don't know. It depends on the situation.
Let me
depends
tell
on.
You then. What if 20 of them came to you?
Huh?
Now what would you say?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of circumstances, like if they institute these concentration camps that the CDC is advocating, when I would say it's better to make them kill me out here than to live a long time in a concentration camp.
Well, last time I'll say, everything is. I was just throwing this out as an idea because it seems like all these statists don't know what the hell to do. I will tell you something. There's two things coming down. It's within the last number of hours. There's 2 things coming down the pike there in the state of New York. One of them has to do with this quarantine business where they just pick you up and take you off.
Yeah, concentration camp.
It's like an intern FEMA type of thing. It's scary as hell. And number 2,
that's what I'm talking
about.
In
the same week, they've also been talking about. I think they may have outlawed bulletproof vests
in New York. You're saying in New York?
Yeah, New York. It's real scary. Some of the stuff they're doing.
Which is really interesting to make it illegal to make it harder for them to kill you. That's pretty amazing. You
mean easier for? If you don't have a vest, then it's easier for them to kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're making it illegal to put on a vest and make it harder for them to kill you. And that, to me, you always have to be an easy target for government, apparently, is their new position. Yeah, I'm right there with you that's very scary development.
Mitchell, and thank you for the call, Mitchell. I appreciate hearing from you tonight. There have been people who've had similar ideas to Mitchell in the past. Mm-hmm. The most recent example are the people who wanted to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, the goon in charge of the Michigan government.
I don't know if I'd use the word kidnap. I think they
citizen's arrest or whatever you want to call it, but they are going to call it kidnapping. Okay,
sure.
When
just
that
like we call it kidnapping when they arrest us.
That's right. And so the thing is, of course, federal agents were infiltrated into that group. It was probably the federal agents who suggested the idea in the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Mitchell is a federal agent, but I'm saying that, sometimes the people who are suggesting violence as a tactic are actually federal agents, and they want to set you up to go down and arrest you. Further, it's fairly difficult to find the 10 people that he's talking about. There may be 10 people out there who would be willing to do a so-called citizen's arrest as he's discussing, but they're very, very few and far between. There certainly are not hundreds of thousands of them out there, and they're not interested. Most people aren't interested in taking that level of risk. But
I don't know if I'd agree with that. There are hundreds of thousands of people in the Army who certainly are willing to risk their lives under certain circumstances. The thing is, I think that people feel they don't want to risk their lives or lose their lives for nothing. So they would have to be assured, I think, that there were a sufficient number that they had a reasonable chance for victory. And people are, rightly afraid of the government, think they're going to be very difficult to defeat, and they're right.
They are, which is why 10 isn't going to cut it. And, that's even if you're not infiltrated and taken down from the inside, which you would likely be, because they're going to catch wind of it, if not suggest it to you in the first place.
Well, with those numbers, they might not have enough infiltrators to get all the cells.
So we don't. There's not that kind of numbers.
It's true.
Pure fantasy. Look, if you can get 100,000 people willing to do something, they're more likely to be willing to move to a place and be more free. Which is why the Free State Project, the New Hampshire Freedom Migration, doesn't require people risking, federal prison. More coming up.
Free Talk Live.
When there are cameras around, it doesn't make a difference. There were people with video cameras all over this event yesterday.
It looked like these people were trying to get away,
Yes,
honestly.
they were. Yes, they were. They were being
these weren't
shot.
people rushing towards the cop phalanx.
Nope.
That's right.
They were trying to get away.
And those batons weren't rubber like the bullets were.
They were either trying to get away or they were members of the news media trying to cover the event.
Right.
Police are supposed to be there to protect and serve.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, to be peace officers. And instead, they're creating war.
And, of course, the chief of police is claiming he'll investigate. What they're going to investigate, I don't know. It's going to be very difficult to identify the officers in this video footage because there were so many of them. Mm-hmm. There was an army of police officers out there, and every single one of them was participating in the attack on unarmed, innocent people.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
He's calling it a heinous attack. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Trump has released a new message where he addressed the violent protests at the Capitol.
Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence, lawlessness, and mayhem. I immediately deployed the National Guard and federal law enforcement to secure the building and expel the intruders. America is and must always be a nation of law and order.
And he said the demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol defiled the seat of American democracy. And for the first time, he talked about the new administration, saying he is turning his attention to a smooth and orderly transition, saying this moment calls for healing and reconciliation. President-elect Joe Biden spoke again today about the violence at the Capitol and again blamed President Trump and said what we witnessed yesterday was not dissent, it was chaos. Meanwhile, serious charges could be coming for those who stormed the Capitol yesterday.
The top federal prosecutor in D.C. says all options are on the table for charges against those that took part in the violent protest and storming of the U.S. Capitol Wednesday. Police say more than 90 people have been arrested throughout Washington. Michael Sherwin, the acting U.S. attorney for D.C., says 15 federal cases have been filed for unauthorized access, theft, and weapons charges. Investigators are combing through evidence to bring more charges that could include seditious conspiracy, a charge the Justice Department told prosecutors to consider during violent protests over the summer and fall. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Georgia Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler has conceded to Raphael Warnock.
My heart breaks at not being able to continue to serve Georgia and America. I'm tremendously proud of all we achieved together.
Loeffler was appointed to the position a year ago to replace Senator Johnny Isakson. America is listening to Fox News.
If you're a business owner, you don't need us to tell you that running a business is tough. Don't let QuickBooks and spreadsheets slow you down anymore. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSuite gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Join the over 24,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/Fox. netsuite.com/Fox.
Facebook and Instagram have blocked President Trump's accounts indefinitely.
Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg posting, "We believe the risks of allowing the president to continue to use our service during this period are simply too great." The platform's previously locking the president's page for 24 hours following his posts addressing violence on Capitol Hill. Twitter locking Mr. Trump's @Real Donald Trump account for 12 hours, vowing to keep it locked unless posts were removed and warning future violations will result in a permanent suspension. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
Shopping website Shopify has taken down stores on its site affiliated with President Trump. The company saying the events yesterday at the Capitol determined the president's actions violated its policy, which prohibits promotion or support of organizations, platforms, or people that threaten or condone violence to further a cause. Federal officials are reportedly considering prohibiting Americans from investing in some Chinese companies.
The Wall Street Journal reporting a possible ban on Americans' investments in popular Chinese companies Alibaba and Tencent for alleged ties to the Chinese military. Other recent actions include an executive order banning some Chinese apps and a delisting of some Chinese telecoms. The transition team to President-elect Biden says he will, quote, suspend and review late-stage executive actions by Mr. Trump. In New Jersey, Lauren Simonetti, Fox News.
President-elect Biden will select Boston Mayor Marty Walsh as his labor secretary. Walsh has served as mayor.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
In Baltimore, the streets have gotten safer thanks to the success of the new Permanent Daylight Initiative, which aims to prevent crime by illuminating the entire city 24 hours a day using high-powered floodlights.
It's just that it's so bright all the time, even in the rain.
City officials say there have been 0 violent crimes since the start of the program, except for one man who vandalized the light by throwing his body off a building into it. Now let's set our crosshairs onto Mountain View, California, where Gmail servers were down for nearly 2 hours today. In an online statement, the company said, "Tremble before Google. With the mere flip of a switch, we can bring you to your knees." After reestablishing service this afternoon, Google changed its logo and released a statement saying, if not appeased with a 20% increase in Google Chrome downloads by the next vernal equinox, they will take back their generous gift unto mankind of colored conversation labeling. All right, you can take off your helmet. You have survived the news blitz.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Hey, it's Free Talk Live. We're kicking off the third hour of the program here. Our number is 603-283-6160. 603-283-6160. With you tonight, it's Ian.
And nobody.
Well, it's never fun to talk about suicide, but we really ought to talk about suicide here because, well, that's something that people are doing. Thanks to the government crackdown on our freedoms.
It's true.
Thanks to the arbitrary rule by these little dictators, these governors, His Excellency, as he's called here in New Hampshire, Chris Sununu, the so-called governor, who has had protesters out in front of his house for the last several weeks, ever since he put in a mask mandate. But the mask mandate was just the straw that broke the camel's back as far as the activists protesting were concerned. That was just what finally made them decide to go out in front of his house. And same man has been ruling over the children of New Hampshire, who have been going to his government schools and have been subjected to all manner of arbitrary rule when it comes to masks being, mandated that at basically every point of the day for these kids that are going to these government schools. And now, according to the Union Leader, which is New Hampshire's largest newspaper based out of Manchester, the suicide of a 7th grader on Monday has left many with unanswered questions Hundreds of residents lit candles outside of their homes Tuesday night in memory of Amherst Middle School student Donovan Kraus, according to the superintendent of SAU 39, which is what they call their school districts here in New Hampshire. In an online statement, Donovan's mother shared her son's story and urged others to hug their children tight each and every day. She says, "The unthinkable has happened. Our beautiful son Donovan took his own life on Monday. We're just in shock and disbelief. We didn't see this coming at all. He has so many interests, hobbies, and zest for life. How can a boy with such a big smile ever consider such a thing?" She said Donovan left a short note indicating that he loved his family so much, but didn't share any details about his suffering. So I'm certainly speculating here, as are others, that maybe the lockdown played a role in this kid's suicide, because it's not very common that you see suicide among 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
that's certainly true.
Normally it's, if it happens, it's pretty newsworthy because it just doesn't happen. I mean, kids are, they've got a lot to look forward to in life. There's a lot going on that, is interesting to them, and they're growing and learning, and why would they take their own life?
Well, I mean, good God, a world where you can't touch anybody, where you can't even see a human face.
Exactly.
Who wants to live in that? Who's afraid of losing that life? I'm certainly not. That's why I would rather, go unmasked, and if I die, I die. But I don't want to. I don't want to live a life where I'm, isolated.
Exactly.
It's pointless.
It says here that he enjoyed playing drums and had been taking drum lessons and performed with his family, but you can't go to
never would be able to perform.
Right. There's nowhere to perform now, and you can't even take lessons now. Because what good, come on, what good are lessons if you can't actually be with the instructor? It's not going to be the same if you've got some guy over a Zoom link saying, no, you need to do it this way. No, I mean, it's just not the same, right? Like whether it's yoga, exercise, or drum lessons, it's important to have a person there so they can see your form, they can know exactly what you're doing wrong and right, and they can make specific suggestions and show you how to do things right.
And a Zoom massage is even worse.
Yeah, so sad stuff here. The poor kid. Now, it doesn't say in the story how it was, of course, that he did take his own life. That much is not clear. And,
Well, usually when people succeed, it's hanging.
Yeah, or a gunshot?
Gunshot. I'd say that's less likely at that age, but maybe.
Yeah. So the school is temporarily that he attends is in a remote school setting. So he's not even able to be in person with his friends.
Yeah. So he gets no contact with other kids
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for online.
Yeah.
And that's not good enough.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not good enough to actually feel like you're a human being that is cared for by other human beings, because you're all alone.
Yeah.
With the exception of mom and dad, and you kind of get tired of them after a while. As nice as they might be, you kind of want to go outside and get away from them. Go run through the woods and do kid things.
And the thing is, from a kid's point of view, love from mom and dad is it's almost like it's required, and so it doesn't. It's not the affirmation that love from someone outside the family is.
Right.
That's absolutely terrible. And there's going to be a whole generation of broken children as a result of these draconian laws, and it will be and the longer it goes on, the more broken they're going to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's just terrible and terrifying what it is that they've done to these kids.
Yeah.
And maybe the best we can hope for here is some sort of a pendulum swing back in a direction of people getting back together again. But that could also become bad because they may go too far, and you may see crazy, wild, unprotected sex that could result in more STDs.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
STDs being spread, and people being irresponsible in the way that they sort of come back together over time. So
that could definitely happen, but I would rather see an epidemic of
STDs
than an epidemic of suicides.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll give you that.
Most
for sure.
of those you can treat with a shot in the butt.
Yeah, or wherever.
Yeah. Well, I think it's penicillin shots in the butt that they give you.
I'm not sure for what.
Well, I was thinking syphilis, gonorrhea.
Okay.
I actually had one of those and then it turned out that the girl I'd slept with actually had a yeast infection and not an STD. But I went into the hospital and I was like, yeah, I think she might have had, and they were like, all right, pull him down.
All right, then. Bend over.
Again. That's how I got into this mess.
So if you want to weigh in here at 603-283-6160, yeah, I mean, I just can't help but feel terrible for these kids. Vincent, who is a former co-host here, we had him on last night to talk about what was going on. He actually has worked in the school system in recent months. He was working as like a substitute teacher in the government schools, and he says it is terrible that the teachers have to wear these masks constantly. The students have to wear the masks constantly. When they go outside, they're not allowed to play outside of a small play group or a play bubble or whatever the hell they're calling it. I mean, it is just highly restrictive.
They have like a couple kids that are allowed to play with?
I guess. Highly, highly restrictive stuff. And it's not the way kids should be having any kind of an experience. I mean, it's like prison.
And the kids are at no risk.
No.
Kids don't die of COVID.
But they tell them that they're going to get their grandparents sick.
Yeah. Oh, God. I mean, isolate the grandparents if you have to, but let the grandparents make that choice because they might prefer to take the risk.
I think a lot of them would. I think a lot of grandparents would much rather get a hug from their grandchildren and their kids than to be completely isolated for the remainder of their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's insane.
Absolutely. And
because they know, the grandparents know how important it is to show that appreciation, that affection to their grandchildren, and they would. I think a lot of them. I know I would if I were in their position. I'm not, but I don't have kids. But if I were in their position, I would feel that way. I'd be like, you know what? I'd rather take my risks and enjoy my life, whatever remains of it, even if there is a higher risk involved in this. Yeah. I didn't get here without taking risks.
I feel that way at 50. I certainly wouldn't. Yeah. I don't think I'd feel differently at 80.
So if you want to weigh in on some of the just terrible, brain damage that's going on out there due to these crackdowns and these government lockdowns and restrictions, you're welcome to join us. It's Free Talk Live.
She's a purebred, orange and white Brittany, but when we adopted April, she started scratching like crazy. I said, what you put into a dog is what you get out. DINOVITE.com. So we had a huge scoop of Dinovite in her bowl. She licked it clean. She loved it. Her coat is now soft. It's silky. Dinovite is nutrition.
You get some Dinovite, how happy your dog will be.
On Dinovite, she's Little Miss Hollywood. DINOVITE.com.
What if the United States and the Soviet Union had fought on land, sea, air, and the astral plane, struggled for dominion across parallel dimensions or on the surface of the moon? What wonders would have been unveiled? What terrors would have haunted mankind from those dark and dismal dimensions? Come closer, peer through a glass darkly, and discover the horrifying alternative visions of World War III from some of today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War III. Available now from Baen Books at baenbooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Divvy's been a pretty good investment for Free Talk Live. Their ad campaign started in September 2019, and from mid-March to mid-July, the values soared by 10 times. It's not too late. Divvy's new wallet hasn't even released yet, and other things are happening that I can't even say on the radio. If you want to invest and potentially do well, go to divvyproject.org. I can tell you that FTL is deepening its partnership with the guys from divvyproject.org. Past performance is not an indication of future profit. divvyproject.org. DIVI project.org.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, hey, who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute.
Holy crap.
Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Cell 411 is a free app for Android and iOS that replaces government-controlled 911. Cell 411 allows you to preset a group of friends or private organizations to show up at any emergency. Cell 411 is a nightmare for the state because it proves their so-called services aren't needed. Cell 411 has had thousands of installs, and of course it's covered by the BIPCOT no government license. Cell 411 because your friends won't shoot you when you're in trouble. Without the government, who would build the emergency services? You and Cell 411. Get it today at getcell411.com.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. Bring up what you want here. 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Coming up this summer, Fork Fest 2021, the 5th anniversary, the 5th Fork Fest. I guess it's not the 5th anniversary, but
this is not.
Technically, it's the 4th year after the first one. But nonetheless, this will be the 5th Fork Fest. And you can learn more about the event by going to forkfest.party. We will be there. You're planning on going, right? Nobody?
Oh, yeah.
In fact, there was an interesting discovery today. We learned that apparently the Free State Project, after initially saying they were going to be the week before the Fork Fest, because one of the reasons we waited a couple months before coming out with announcing the dates for Fork Fest was we were waiting on to see what the Free State Project wanted to do with their Porcupine Freedom Festival. And they had initially said that they were going to be the final week of June, which is what they normally do with the Porcupine Freedom Festival. But then today they decided they were going to have their event also June 28th through July 4th. And so it looks like the events are coming together.
Porcupines and Forkyfines together again.
I think it's great.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I did touch base with some of the Porcupine Freedom Festival organizers today. Now, they haven't announced who their official, MC or organizer or whatever is going to be, but there are still some people who are involved that I did speak with one of them today. Because the big question, and one of the reasons why Fork Fest was formed in the first place in 2017 was there were some people who were disappointed with the direction that the Porcupine Freedom Festival was going in, with just too much of a heavy security presence, locking down the campground, no longer just allowing anybody to be just kind of on the campground camping, and having like a security checkpoint and things like that, restrictive rules on vendors. And it was last year that they changed all that, and for the better. Yes. They made the decision to decentralize the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and they made it so anybody who wanted to could come to the campground again during the Porcupine Freedom Festival and camp and not attend officially the Porcupine Freedom Festival. If they wanted to, they could, but they didn't have to. So that came back in 2020. And also what came back to the Porcupine Freedom Festival was a decentralized atmosphere as far as vending was concerned.
Yes.
That had gotten very controlling over the years with the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and they decentralized that, and it was a huge success because they decentralized it. And so the big question today from some of the Forkfesters was, well, are they going to go back in the more centralized direction in 2021, or are they going to go in the more decentralized direction? It sounds like they're going to continue with the decentralization of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. And if that's the case, and I think it is so far, based on the conversation that I had today, it sounds like both festivals can coexist and commingle and do all of that peacefully. And I think a lot of people will be happy to see that happen, because ultimately, again, if you talk to some people, everybody has their own reasons for Forkfest, right? Like, it's a decentralized festival, so there's no one who's in charge. There's no one person you can go to and say, what's this about? Because it's about different things for different people. But I think a lot of us wanted to see the Porcupine Freedom Festival sort of return to splendor, return to the golden days, if you will, the good day, the good old days, and the fact that they've decentralized, I think, shows that. The fact that they're willing to come back together with the Forkfesters and all be on the same campground for the same week together, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful thing. Because I'm still technically a member of the Free State Project, and I love them, and I love my Porkfesty friends and my Forkfesty friends, and I just want to see everybody get along.
Well, everybody's not going to get along. I mean, that's just the way everybody is. They'll have their issues with some people, but what's likely going to happen is the people who don't want to get along, they just won't come.
Yeah,
and that's fine. The rest of us will have a good time.
Yeah,
and it'll be good. So go to forkfest.party right now. Again, slated for June 28th. Through July 4th of 2021. That's forkfest.party. Go ahead and lock down your campsite now. While you got the chance, go to Rogers Campground, book your campsite, book your RV site or your motel room, because if it's true that both of these festivals are going to happen at the same time, and it sounds like they are, that means you better get your campsite and or motel room right away.
Yeah. Now, are they taking reservations today? Is there anybody in the office at Rogers?
So wintertime hours are very, very limited at Rogers Campground. Obviously, they're not technically open at all during the wintertime here, but they do still, as far as I know, a couple times a week, they will still check voicemails. They will still, accept reservations. Now, how long it'll take them to get back to you, I don't know. I haven't heard from people on how long that takes, but
okay,
it is still an option.
I'll make my call as soon as I can. Cause, now that Bitcoin has made me a thousandaire.
Nice. So check that out, forkfest.party. We go to your calls and thoughts. David is on the line in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, a brief lawyer summary of the final hearing tomorrow at 9:45. But first of all, supporting your previous story, quote, I'm going mad staying at home all the time and not being able to go to school and play outside with my friends.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you go ahead and switch your phone? Just go ahead and make a habit of switching your phone over to whatever mode it is that is the quieter mode, because it's so distorted, it's really hard to handle.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, so Albuquerque Journal article entitled Shadow Deaths of the Virus. Those were the words written in the journal, school journal, for a project of Landon Fuller of Hobbs, New Mexico. I believe it was Hobbs, who shortly after writing those words killed himself, 11 years old.
Wow. Oh, how'd he do it?
With the gun.
Wow.
Huh.
And Anyway, and the OMI, the Officer of the Medical Examiner in New Mexico, said that in the same article in the Albuquerque Journal that the category unexpected deaths was up approximately 20% over the previous year in the March to June period or whatever it was of this year that just ended. Anyway, and she said she expected that a good percentage of those were suicides. But anyway, so I decided to give you that piece.
According to the Santa Fe New Mexican, there's a legislative report that came out in December saying that New Mexico, which has already struggled with the highest suicide rate in the nation because, well, it is one of the poorest places and most highly government-controlled, much of the blame, says it could see a spike in 2020, much of the blame goes to, they say, COVID-19, which we all know it's actually the government's restrictions, not COVID. COVID doesn't make people kill themselves. And it says here it's the heavy toll that has been taken on families from illnesses and deaths to lost jobs and isolation. The pandemic's effect, which again is the government's effect, has been particularly taxing on children, teens, and young adults. Their lives were turned upside down in 2020 with schools shuttered, sports and other activities canceled, large gatherings with friends prohibited. Hang on, David, I know you wanted to tell your court story.
How many grandparents would want to survive at the cost of their grandchild's suicide?
Great question. The result could be concerning in New Mexico, where 29% of the deaths of young people from 15 to 24 were due to suicide in 2014 and 2018, and those numbers are rising. 855, oh, sorry, the number is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Doodle, Stuart, Harold, and Pork Chop. Pork Chop, his beautiful blonde coat is very thick. He's an Akita, German Shepherd, Lab, Husky mix. They did a DNA test on the 4 rescues. The first year is just a complete retraining. Lots of love, discipline, and daily upkeep. I'm a registered nurse and a personal trainer. If I eat healthy, then my dog should eat healthy. DINOVITE.com. They need the vitamins and minerals that Dynavite provides.
Dynavite is nutrition.
Harold, the Border Collie Pit Mix, has the most beautiful jet black coat. Stuart, my rat terrier, has fur now where he never had it before. Doodle, he's a poodle cocker spaniel. His energy is tremendous. The Dynavite will make your dog happy, vivacious, jump up and down, wag their tails. It will make you smile.
You won't believe how happy your dog will be.
I get my Dynavite at DINOVITE.com.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com. Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. So you've heard all 3 hours of the latest episode of Free Talk Live, and you're still hungry for liberty-oriented audio content? Did you know that we have another 24/7 audio stream at LRN.FM? The Liberty Radio Network airs the latest episodes of some of the best liberty-oriented podcasts on the internet around the clock. In addition to recorded content, you'll also hear live shows like Free Talk Live, originating from our Keene, New Hampshire studio. So listen anytime at LRN.FM. That's LRN.FM. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm.
Live video of our key New Hampshire-based shows is streamed on DLive. Please follow and share at dlive.lrn.fm. That's dlive.lrn.fm.
Free Talk Live. You can bring up what you want at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Here in the studio tonight, you've got Ian.
And nobody.
We will take more of your calls and thoughts, and we can also tell you about the new supply commander that Joe Biden is calling for.
Supply commander?
Oh, you're going to love this, nobody.
Isn't the word for that commissar?
Yeah. Well,
that's what they called them in the Soviet Union.
They're not going to use that term.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically what we're talking about.
Don't come around, oh, they're commissars in town, oh,
Let's go first back to your calls here. We got David on the line in New Mexico. David, you're back on Free Talk Live. So you wanted to update us on what is, I guess, going to be the court hearing for you in regards to your calls to a local radio station. You were calling the college radio station there in town, and somebody at the college station complained to the police about it, and they went ahead and arrested you for it. You've beaten 3 out of the 4 charges before trial, so they've dropped 3 out of 4, but they're moving forward with one of them. So what are you facing? Is this a misdemeanor charge, and what's it called?
Yes and no, and we don't know if they're moving forward. Tomorrow is a pretrial conference, and at previous pretrial conferences, that's where the assistant DA decided to surrender to me, and so it's most likely that's what they'll do tomorrow. Is once again Raul Torres will surrender to David Olson. And
Fornegate constables.
We don't know that for sure. Maybe they were setting me up and dropping the previous 3 to put all of their energy into crucifying me on the 4th one. We don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. But I'm looking at an email that I asked for months and months and months from my court-appointed attorney and never could get her to do until I named her on your radio program, and then within 48 hours got the email I was asking for, sweet. Which summarizes... go ahead.
I just said sweet.
Yeah, which summarizes her position on this, which is pretty accurate, and it's very succinct. So the last remaining charge here is stalking. And so briefly, stalking consists of knowingly pursuing a pattern of conduct without lawful authority. That's one element. Directed at a specific individual is the second element. When the person intends, meaning me, that my intent of that pattern of conduct, I intend it, and would place the individual, the so-called victim, in a reasonable apprehension of death.
And so who are they saying was the victim?
Well, the
phone screener?
The people at the radio, the call screeners.
Well, is there more than one?
No.
Okay,
well, actually, technically, yes. I talked to 2 different people or 3 different people there, but it was mainly the Elaine Baumgartel, the director, was the one that actually called.
So she believes that because you called to try to get on the talk show that happened to be on the air at the time, and and she told you to stop calling, and you called back, that's somehow a threat to her life. That's what she's going to try to claim.
Wow.
Well,
did you say anything like, I'm going to whack you if you don't put me on the air?
But I don't recall that. I'm not James from Arizona, after all.
Well, good for that. Thank you for not being James from Arizona.
The cop, Mary Grace Barreras, would have to have interpreted the narrative from Elaine Baumgartel as fitting this stalking thing. Otherwise, Officer M.G. Barreras couldn't have written it up as such. But
the cops never know what the law says. Mm-hmm. They don't have any clue about the law.
Yeah. So to finish this up, the reasonable apprehension of death, bodily harm, sexual assault, confinement, or restraint of the individual or another individual. And the attorney's response to that is that it was indeed lawful conduct protected by the Constitution, and that it was not directed at any individual. It was whom I was speaking to, whomever answered the phone. And I communicated with multiple different people, not seeking out any one in particular, right. and apprehension of harm. So there's really no way to someone's calling asking to be on the radio. You can't really convert that to death, bodily harm, sexual assault.
I think you're right, David. They don't even have a shred of a case here.
No, absolutely not. This prosecutor is a monster for even bringing this case. Now, even though the cops never know what they're doing with the law, the prosecutor should have dropped this case as soon as he saw it.
Now, are you handling this pro se without an attorney?
No, technically in this one I'm still represented by this attorney.
Mm-hmm. By a public defender?
However, the last hearing I did myself because the attorney didn't show up, so I ended up just handling the hearing myself.
Wow. Well, best of luck. Thanks for the update, and I hope it works out for you.
I hope it works out for you. I hope you call up tomorrow and tell us you're a free man.
Yeah, for now, and then they'll just find something else come after you for.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it, man. Good luck.
Yep.
Peace.
Number here, 603-283-6160. So, you want to hear about the supply commander?
Oh, God.
I've been holding this one.
Yeah,
I've been holding on to this one here. This actually came out, Reason.com had this piece just after the election back in November. This week, Joe Biden previewed several ways he plans to take bold action upon assuming office in January. Among the most immediately consequential would be his promise to appoint a supply commander to, quote, take command of the national supply chain for essential equipment, medications, and protective gear.
Wow, that's straight up fascism.
Is it, or is it communism? Well,
I would say it's fascism if they're leaving the nominal private ownership intact,
so the company's
and just
still
directing it. That would be more like what the Nazis did than what the Soviets did.
Overburdened hospital capacity was one of the primary concerns cited by proponents of lockdowns as the COVID-19 pandemic gained steam in the springtime of 2020. The system's continued potential vulnerability is now a doubly contentious issue. On the one hand, there are renewed calls for stricter lockdowns, which this was again in November. They're happening. On the other, there's a criticism that the system didn't improve under Donald Trump's watch. Biden's website proclaimed, quote, we can no longer leave this to the private sector. The supply commander should work with every governor to determine their needs and then coordinate production and delivery of those needs in a timely and efficient manner. Now, of course, anyone that knows...
Well, they do say that Mussolini made the trains run on time.
And the supply commander should direct the distribution of critical equipment as cases peak at different times in different states or territories.
Wow.
I mean, that's total central control right there.
Oh, yeah. But if they want to raise the death rate from COVID, and they seem to have been working real hard to do that, to the point of using sick people as a murder weapon to kill old people in nursing homes, then I would say that they're gonna have a lot of death on their hands if they let the government control production.
Well, right. Now, here's the thing. So because government has already been mostly in control of the healthcare business, right? There's a tremendous amount of restrictions and regulations on the healthcare industry. So any amount of government control is tantamount to poorer delivery, right? Like poorer services, poorer quality, fewer choices, fewer options, and less competition means higher prices, right? So there's already a tremendous burden being placed on these industries by government regulations, but they're using whatever failures that the industries have had, and they're pointing to it saying, see, private business just can't handle it. Well, it's not true free market in the first place.
Yeah.
It's a highly regulated and restricted market. Now they're using the failures of that marketplace, likely brought on by the government regulations in the first place, to say we need more government central control.
Every government failure is a justification for more government in the mind of a statist.
603-283-6160 is our number if you want to weigh in on the Supply Commander, which is the proposal here, and purportedly what he's going to put into play in 2 weeks from now. 603-283-6160 is our number here on Free Talk Live. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Look, I'm sorry, but you're in for a world of pain if you use Koinomi. The reason is their wallet doesn't support payments. The solution is simple. Let them hear your voice. Message Koinomi on Twitter, it takes 5 seconds, and tell them AnyPay sent you, because they're on the fence right now, and your voice will prove that people care about using Bitcoin for payments. Go tweet at Koinomi now. Or even better, leave a review in the App Store. They really pay attention there. Thanks.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
It is Free Talk Live. Moments remain here. Enough time for you if you join us at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian and nobody here in the studio tonight. We're talking about the supply commander that Joe Biden is saying is going to be put into effect coming up in his administration. He was promising this back in November.
What could possibly go wrong?
You mean when a government bureaucrat gets to decide what happens to, well, certain industry sectors like so-called essential equipment, medications, and protective gear?
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what they say. When buying and selling are legislated, legislators will be the first things bought and sold.
Yeah, well, that's already been the case, right? I mean, these people have been bought and sold forever.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, but, you know, the more power you give them, every new iota of power is a new chance to sell a favor. They've got one more thing to sell, one more auction to hold, and the best heeled company is the one that's able to buy off the politicians.
Well, and of course, we've already seen during the government's response to the so-called pandemic, smaller businesses have been put out of business, and money has been, and wealth has been transferred to the larger mega corporations. And if you've got a so-called supply commander that is now taking control of the entire national supply chain for these industries, that's going to result in favoritism being directed towards, well, as you pointed out, the ones that are giving political contributions, which are inevitably going to be the larger corporations as opposed to the smaller, more mom and pop manufacturers out there. And that's going to even more likely put them out of business entirely if they aren't free to make their own decisions about to whom to sell and how much quantity and all of that, or where to ship or whatever. Then they're going to go under, and that's going to result in even fewer manufacturers making these products and putting even more wealth in their pockets, while making it so the products are even harder to find on store shelves and elsewhere.
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare scenario.
Yep, that's what's coming. This is from Joe Biden's website after he was elected in November. That's where the story comes from. Reason.com reporting Biden's website says, quote, "We can no longer leave this to the private sector." The unquote, "The supply commander will direct the distribution of critical equipment as cases peak at different times in different states or territories," they say. In reality, the healthcare industry, now this is Reason reporting, uniquely confounds both sides of the oversimplified market versus government debate. Markets are essential to allocate resources in a modern, complex society. But the U.S. healthcare system lacks the chief vehicle through which markets accomplish this end: reliable and responsive prices. The U.S. healthcare system's combination of large private insurers and government mandates and subsidies fuels a system where both doctors and patients rarely consider the cost of services when making decisions.
And of course, the existence of health insurance and employer-paid health insurance is a product of government intervention. During World War II, unemployment went down to like 1 or 1.5%. Well, that's, of course, a good thing for workers because it makes prices rise. And FDR, fascist that he was, decided that we can't let the price of labor rise. And so he outlawed giving raises to employees. So, but employers still had to compete for them.
Right.
So they started offering health insurance instead, which has then ever since distorted the medical market beyond all comprehension.
Because people don't ever have to ask for what the price of things are.
Absolutely.
So in many cases, not even a price set for things.
And you don't know. And you don't care.
And you can't find out in some cases.
Yeah, they look at you like you have three heads if you
Wait,
say, what's
what?
this going to cost?
Yeah. According to Reasons, is hardly a free market. Reform allowing prices to act as reliable signals would require politicking, legislation, implementation, and learning by market participants that would long outlast the current pandemic. This alone does not make the case for a command-driven medical supply chain, even in the very short run.
I don't know if I agree with them that it would outlast the pandemic. I think this is a variation on Orwell's 1984 war. The pandemic is not meant to be won. It's meant to be continuous.
Forever and ever.
Yes.
Yeah. This alone does not. Well, they were talking about if there were actually an implementation of a free market in healthcare, that it would take a while for people to kind of learn how to do markets again. And it would take a few,
But how long would it take them to figure out there wasn't a pandemic going on when prices started falling?
They say this doesn't make a case for a national command-driven medical supply chain, even in the very short run, nor does the Trump administration's response truly leave supply to the private sector, as Biden is claiming. The White House Trade and Policy Advisor was among those sounding the alarm on overburdened supply chains early on, albeit with undertones of the president's and his own economic nationalism.
Well, not just that, but they also sent, hospital ships all over the country to sit empty with no patients.
Right.
They set up MASH units to do absolutely nothing while the nurses in the hospitals were dancing on whatever TikTok.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of, the central control and the failure of it.
Yeah.
Let's go to Unscreened Caller. You're on Free Talk Live here in the final segment.
Oh, Unscreened Caller. I love that guy.
Yes, sir.
Unscreened Caller. Hey, it's CW. I'm listening from KTOX. That's broadcasting out of Needles, California, but I live in Arizona, just across the border.
Great station. Go ahead. Thanks for the call tonight. Go ahead.
Hey, bro. It's cool that you guys have 2 hours now because they changed their lineup, so now you have 2 hours.
That's
we don't
right.
have to listen to the final hour.
Thank you.
So I know you guys probably already knew that. But anyways, I just want to tell you, I don't wear a mask, and I won't wear a mask.
Nice.
And thank you. I hate wearing masks. Anyways,
thank you for showing your face.
On our local news things, it says, "Oh, our economy is doing good despite the pandemic." Well, you know what? Because our county didn't shut down like all these other damn places.
Mm-hmm.
They shut down. That's why our economy is doing better than everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If
And
you
you're
shut
in a
down, your
place in
economy
California?
sucks.
No.
You're in Arizona.
Yeah, just across.
I'm on the other side of the river. I'm on Arizona because Needles borders right here. We're in the tri-state: Arizona, Nevada, California.
Mm-hmm.
And let me think. Yeah, I hear Dave everywhere. Dave from New Mexico. He's a regular caller on KTOX on our local station.
Wow.
I love listening to local talent. And
so they didn't shut
else?
anything down in your area of Arizona, or was the whole state that didn't shut down? Was it just your county?
No. Our county,
Mm-hmm.
our county supervisors, our city council, and all that crap. They keep voting no mask mandates, and they keep voting to keep stuff open. And we just got I have to say this: they have an alleged sexual predator on the city council now, and everybody talks crap about him. His name is Wahid Ziri, and everybody hates him, but somehow the communists in this county ended up voting him in. I don't understand how that works.
Child molester becoming president too.
Well, he's actually a doctor, and he's done some stuff to some patients and nurses, which is questionable. That's why I say alleged.
Did he kill him or
alleged.
just touch him? Because a lot of them kill their patients.
Hey,
I don't know. I'd rather have a doctor give me a little peel up every once in a while because you expect that. We had a guy in the jail doctor. He was a physician's assistant. He wanted you to turn your head and cough if you went in with a sprained ankle.
Hey, but you know what? Oh my gosh, our county is doing good. we're trying. A lot of people talk about KTOX in Needles, California, trying to get them to become a sanctuary city, and then probably try to get out of there and become part of Arizona, even though we're across the river. You know what I'm saying? Why not become us? We're right there. Just make the border a little bit bigger, and we can have that part of California as ours, as our county.
I'm all for secession on all levels. Counties should be free to secede from one state and join another, or just become their own.
Yeah, and I'm also in favor of sanctuary cities. We need to have a sanctuary from the federal government, not just for immigration, but for the war on drugs and for all of their regulations.
The war on guns.
Yeah, all of them. Get them out of here.
Exactly. And that's what's good about us. We are a Second Amendment county. There's no way they're taking our guns. There's no way they're doing anything. And there are plenty of people that will fight here.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate your call, man. Thanks for calling and joining us here tonight. And the good news, it's nice to hear some places are pushing back and refusing to accept these mask mandates and all the various regulations that are going along with them. We're out of time for tonight, but we'll be back tomorrow. You can join us online in the meantime over at freetalklive.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. local.bitcoin.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
The latest episode of Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock is next after the news on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
He says he's outraged. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. In a new video, President Trump took a stronger position on yesterday's chaos at the Capitol, calling the acts heinous.
The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy.
And he said he is now turning his attention to a smooth and orderly transition.
Now tempers must be cooled and calm restored. We must get on with the business of America.
And the president said he's serving as president has been the honor of his lifetime. After yesterday's violence, the Speaker of the House and Democratic leader of the Senate want President Trump to leave office now.
Democrats are calling on Vice President Mike Pence and the cabinet to immediately remove President Trump from office by way of the 25th Amendment.
A very dangerous person who should not continue in office. This is urgent. This is emergency of the highest magnitude.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says if the vice president and cabinet won't act, the House could move forward with impeachment. One House Republican, Illinois' Adam Kinzinger, is also urging the cabinet to act. The 25th Amendment allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge the powers of the office. It's a step that has never been taken before. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The acting U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C. says all options are on the table for those who stormed the Capitol, including sedition charges. More than 90 people have been arrested. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he requested and received the resignation of Senate Sergeant at Arms Michael Stenger, saying Stenger's deputy Jennifer Hemingway will step into the lead security role and will focus on addressing what he called serious failures ahead of the presidential inauguration. On Wall Street, the Dow added 211 points. The Nasdaq added 326. America is listening to Fox News.
Why are you still going to the post office? Do it all online with Stamps.com. Avoid trips to the post office, print postage, send invoices, letters, or packages, and schedule pickups right from your home or office. 24/7. Get close to 10% off first-class stamps, up to 40% off priority mail, and up to 62% off UPS shipping rates. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, and enter code FOX for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale. Stamps.com, code FOX.
As vaccines for COVID-19 continue to be given out, the Centers for Disease Control is advising people to monitor how they react to them.
The CDC says it's carefully watching for allergic reactions to the coronavirus vaccines from both Pfizer and Moderna, now urging people who had a serious reaction not to get a second dose, though still calling allergic reactions to the virus vaccine exceedingly rare, with a reported 21 cases of anaphylaxis in late December out of 1.9 million vaccine doses. And that 71% of reactions occurred within the first 15 minutes after getting the shot. The CDC still stressing the importance for people to get vaccinated when shots become available. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
A state of emergency declared in Tokyo after the city hit a record number of cases of COVID-19, while South Africa says it will buy 1.5 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to inoculate healthcare workers. New details coming to light about a far-reaching foreign hack on the government.
We're learning more about the massive cyber attack that hit many large companies and several federal agencies, including the Justice Department. A report from the Wall Street Journal says hackers were able to access department emails, and about 3% of the accounts were affected. No classified systems were accessed. U.S. intelligence agencies have pointed the finger at Russia for the hack. All of those hit were customers of IT software provided by a company called SolarWinds, which reportedly contained an unknown backdoor for...
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
The zebra of the plains is perpetually hunted by a myriad of merciless predators. With no purpose other than to feed monsters, the zebra spends its entire life standing around awaiting a violent death. They are nature's ultimate prey. The zebra paces the earth, patiently going through the motions of life, knowing that at any moment it will end in a sudden shock of pain and brutality. With its black and white stripes serving as an ostentatious beacon to any nearby predators, the zebra whiles away its time before gruesome elimination. Zebra wait on the pantry shelf that is the African plain before something finds it and, at last, remembers to eat it.
This is the Onion News Network.
And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember. I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here.